Mike, what is your deal, man?
Oh, come on, man. You've been riding me all day.
Mike, you're playing like Betty White out there.
That's not what your girlfriend said.
Baby. Whoa. Eat a Snickers. Better?
Better.
Mike, how about that?
That hurt.
You're not you when you're hungry. Snickers satisfies.
Okay, the Super Bowl got its highest rating in 23 years, and when all the numbers are calculated, there's a chance it could be the most watched Super Bowl ever. Many people watch the Super Bowl for one reason, the commercials. Our guest today knows all about those commercials and branding products. Mark Schupp from Schupp Advertising is with us today. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Christine.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
So this is your big night, right?
It was fun. It was a big night. It was a great game, and the commercials were pretty good, too.
So you're always sequestered somewhere watching the commercials.
Yeah, it's a tradition for me. I make chili in the morning. My kids are in college, so I ship them off. I go to a separate room, close the door, and I have a whole rating scale of I rate everything on a scale of 1 to 10 for various ratings.
Yeah, and you always have that keen eye. I mean, of course, you're looking for all sorts of things, but your main thing is the branding. You know, do you remember what the product is or the service is by the time you've watched it?
That's one of the things. You also look at likability, and the USA Today ad meter poll is based on likability. And that's all they measure. So they don't look at how memorable the commercial is. Does somebody associate your product with the commercial? And it doesn't take into account how well you're engaging the consumer online, which, as we know, is becoming more and more critical in today's environment.
Well, Betty White was a sure bet here, but as you were saying, you know, what would you have liked to seen at the end of the commercial? I mean, of course, you can always, you know.
Well, just as a consumer, not as an advertising professional, but it kind of surprised me when Betty White turned into the young man. I thought it would have been fun if Betty White had actually stayed herself and Snickers gave her some kind of power where she could just crush the young guys.
I agree with that, and I think, you know, it seemed to me that the people that I was with also felt that there were a lot of commercials that started out great, you know, they're really strong, and then they just kind of tanked.
Yeah, well, it was still a good commercial, particularly when Betty White just
Not that one, but others.
Well,
had good momentum, and then something just fell off. Now, the Dorito commercials were great, and those are driven by consumers.
Those are driven by consumers, and Dorito does an excellent job. They had a contest which starts several months before the Super Bowl. They invite consumers to write and produce their own spot. They do. They get them on their internet site or their website, and then they drive consumers to go on their site and vote for which is the best commercial and the best ones to actually make it to the Super Bowl. So besides saving all kinds of money, they have hundreds of spots from which to choose. And most clients, you know, they look at the scripts, and they narrow it down, they might do research, and and they actually have to spend the money, and most spots cost between $200,000 and probably $1 million to produce them. That doesn't include the $2.7 million to actually air them. So it's quite an investment, and so that's a great way of hedging their bets.
Well, you were instrumental with creating Spuds McKenzie, right? Remember those good days? Is there an aha moment for the advertising exec that says, oh, we've got something really special?
Well, first of all, I didn't create Spuds.
But you were involved
I was involved with Spuds intimately, and it was a good time. I used to be a brand manager on Bud Light, had a great time with Spuds and a lot of the other campaigns that we developed. But, you know, when a client looks at a script, if it's something that's never been done before, most clients are risk adverse. They don't want to take a chance on something they haven't seen before. So that's why I don't think you see a lot of really great, powerful, intrusive, impactful spots anymore in campaigns. They're all kind of follow the same path.
Yeah, and they're not risky.
They're not risky at all. And this is, 30 years ago, but the 1984 Macintosh spot that, had the guy threw the hammer, the anvil through the screen, that's seen as the quintessential Super Bowl spot. Everyone kind of thinks back to that, and you think of the Mean Joe Green for Coca-Cola. That was a great spot. You just don't see spots like that anymore. They try, but you add to the mix the whole digital efforts that they're doing, and the campaigns are probably more effective than they used to be. The commercials just aren't quite as good.
Well, because you used to work branding with Bud Light and whatnot, were you just waiting for the Busch commercial and the Clydesdales to see what it was going to be?
Well, that was a little bit of a controversy because they at least they said initially they weren't going to have.
But don't you think that was just a way?
I think it was a PR stunt, but it was well played, and they drove people to the site, and consumers. They actually created a Facebook page and drove people to the Facebook page. and they voted on which Clydesdale spot should be in there. So besides having consumers engaged in that activity, they actually they got the email addresses and the contact
Smart.
information for all the consumers, so now they can continue on the relationship.
What did you think of the
forward further.
commercial itself right here?
I thought the commercial was your typical Clydesdale commercial.
It was all right,
it was
right?
good. It was light, and as a Clydesdale commercial, I liked it as well as any of the other Clydesdale commercials. I'm just not sure how much beer it's selling.
Right. And finally, do you think that Pepsi sat back and said, oh, glad we weren't involved this year this way? Because didn't they do a lot of stuff online, but they didn't do typical Super Bowl commercials?
Right. Well, when you think about the amount of money that they're spending, Anheuser-Busch, for example, they had 5 minutes. So that translates into $30 million. So I'm probably off on the math, but they spent a lot of money. Pepsi decided to take those dollars instead and put it into a digital online effort, and we'll see.
Do you think that's the trend for the future?
I don't know. You're paying a 100% premium to be in the Super Bowl versus what other spots cost.
All those
on reaching a cost per person. You have to pay a premium to be associated with the Super Bowl. So, they're probably using their money more wisely now.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It's fascinating. It must be fun to be in this profession.
I love the business.
I bet, because you're always second guessing what people will like or what they won't like. And then sometimes stuff comes out of left field and it's like, hey, it was a winner and you didn't expect it.
You bet.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Christine.